differences. And the similarity is that they face kind of similar problems, because we work with people, right? And we are complex and sometimes difficult to understand and difficult to move and so on. So differences that I see that are not good for the very, very big companies that are my clients is that when they are so big, sometimes they lose traction and they are sometimes bureaucratic and things just take too long, and then things get lost. Someone does it in one department or in one country or something, and then maybe in a different department and a different country they have a similar problem, but they don't use it because they just don't communicate to each other. And that normally doesn't happen to medium-sized companies because they're just smaller and people know who is doing what, and the knowledge transfer is just better.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, or good night, depending on what part of the world you're visiting us. Today, I am here with an old friend. We know each other from long time ago from Mexico, both entrepreneurs from EO in Mexico. And now we're both living in the US, clients globally. So really looking forward to this. It's going to be a lot of fun. Talking a little bit about the past, but really understanding each other. We haven't talked to each other in a long time, and we both scale our companies significantly. So it's going to be a great learning. Hey, Paola, how are you?
Very good. Happy to be here.
So I'm going to give a quick intro so people know a little bit about you, and then we'll go to the questions.
Great.
So today we're going to be learning with Paola Carranco. She's a transformative force with over 20 years expertise in turning organizations and individuals into success stories. Certified in change management, culture design, diversity, and equity inclusion, she brings these skill sets to the table, and she's been serving over 500 global clients annually, including Fortune 500s like Walmart, Ford, and many others. She's an independent advisor. She's been on a lot of great boards and really helps teams like startups or big corporations really go through change management and go to the next level. So we're going to learn a lot about learning up. So let's talk about change management, culture design, diversity, equity, and inclusion. What do you do for companies? Like, what are the typical problems companies have when they look for you? And what do you help them do?
Well, there are so many, but all problems have to do with people, with interactions between teams, between people, between different companies. And most of them come from a cultural background. So things like we don't seem to understand each other, or we are acquiring a new company and we really want this to be a successful integration or acquisition or merger or whatever. We just need to talk to each other in a way that we can communicate, or things like we are changing our business strategy or the environment is changing and I need a more agile approach. We need to be faster. We need to be less bureaucratic. We need to be less focused on the internal part, but more focused on the customer. So every problem is different, but almost every problem comes from a human perspective. Either if it is one individual that wants to increase their capability on something, on leadership capability, for example, and then we apply like a coaching kind of approach or a mentoring approach or those kind of things. Or maybe it is a team or a number of people that want to increase, I don't know, something, like they want to be more innovative, for example. And then we create like a learning journey. Or maybe it is a whole company that wants to move from A to B, let's say on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And then we create complete journeys and change management and stakeholders and change agents. And so depending on the problem is what we do. But again, normally it comes from understanding the company vision, understanding what they want to achieve, ensuring that each individual feels valued, empowered, and capable of doing whatever is needed from them.
So let me go then back a little bit. What do you study? What's your background that put you in this position? What was your first client that you started serving?
That's a very good question. So my background is in HR. If you see at my resume, then you would see that I started in different companies, different industries, such as telecom, hotels, and I served many years in Unilever on different HR positions in different parts of the world, Brazil, UK, Mexico, with global role, local role, regional roles in different parts of, as a business partner and in organizational development, talent development, all those kind of things. So that is one part of my professional background. But the other part of my professional background is on entrepreneurship. So I love businesses. I really love businesses, and I really love giving people opportunities to create great things with different product services and so on, and to create opportunities for people to work and realize their full potential in whatever they are working. Um, so I have had different kind of businesses, and I have been investor on some. So that is my main background. In Talent Lab, I founded it almost 11 years ago in Mexico. Since the beginning, we had global clients. So we started global, even if we started or I started in my home office in Mexico at that moment. And quickly I had to hire people and train them and so on. My first client was, well, actually, I have two first clients. I have three first clients. I have to say this. So the first client, yeah, it is something weird, but they just came in at the same time. So the first one was a project. They didn't even pay anything to me, but it was an amazing project. I grew a lot, so you couldn't qualify it as a client because they didn't pay. But again, it was amazing, and it was a very good opportunity to get to expand my network, know other things, and just, understanding myself in the new role as an entrepreneur, but also as an external consultant and so on. Now, the other one was Laureate International Universities. At that moment, it was the biggest education company in the world. They
They
owned
came to Mexico to buy
many.
a lot of universities.
Exactly. Yes. They had many universities, and they had a really aggressive acquisition strategy. And I was in charge of the cultural part of that organization. So they hired some of my time to help them with the talent and cultural evolution of them at the beginning for Latin America, then for the Americas, and then I got to do some very nice global projects. And then another
So
the
let me
third.
give up a pause here before we go to the third. So Laureate is a global learning organization. They own universities all over the world, and
Yeah.
they came into Mexico around 15 years ago, 10 years ago. Mexico has been raising GDP per person,
Yeah.
and we start building a bigger middle class. And that was a trend that a lot of learning institutions around the world found, and they came to buy a lot of the universities for middle class in Mexico and
Yeah.
start scaling them. And Laureate was the first one and with the deepest pockets that came into Mexico. So they came and bought like 10 universities in a 5-year time and then double the size of universities, really serving the
They
middle class.
created a brand.
Yes.
They not just doubled the size, but it was amazing. But what they did, the strategy that they had, the procedures, and the talent that they had was amazing.
Right. Thank you. And what was the third client?
Well, the third client was a person that is my friend, that was a colleague from a telecom company that I used to work in, Avantel. And he just found out that I wasn't in Unilever anymore. And I think that he found that from LinkedIn at that moment. And he was like, "Hey, what are you doing? I have a problem. Maybe you can help me." And I was like, "Yeah, sure, I can help you." He was in a bank, and we did amazing things together over there.
And it was in the bank. What was the problem? What do you help them fix?
Well, the thing with them is that they were growing really fast, and they were developing like their talent strategy, and how will they position themselves as employers, right? So we got to develop many things, like we did it from cultural and climate and those kind of things, that diagnostics, to complete training programs, to creating their competencies, their values, their purpose, managerial training. We did amazing things with them, many
Right.
things.
So let me go back to you a little bit and then I'll go back to your clients.
Okay.
So you've been an entrepreneur for 50 or so years. Tell me a couple of moments or projects really changed you, that they were pivotal in your development. What happened and why you consider them so important for your growth?
So, one standout project was when I led a cultural transformation for a multinational corporation facing a merger. The challenge was to unify two very distinct corporate cultures without losing the essence of what made each one successful. And that was quite a challenge. So, it became a turning point as we achieved like a seamless integration. They valued each other. That was like maybe the most difficult thing to do, especially in an acquisition or in a merger, where who buys wants to, culturalize everything, and make the other company the exact replica of themselves. And on my point of view, sometimes, most of the times, that is an error because you are buying that company because they have a capability and they have many things that made them, you know. So again, that seamless integration and fostering a shared identity that celebrated both legacies while creating a new one and a forward-looking culture was amazing for me. That I just love that project.
And how it changed you? What happened for you before and after the project? What was the big change?
Look, every project is very different, and maybe that is one of the things why I like my job so much. You know, I talk to clients in the energy industry, and then I talk to an FMCG, and then on the financial services, and then you know, it is just exciting to get to know different businesses. Again, I told you I love businesses, so for me, the acquiring business acumen when I become their partner is what changed me in every project, not just on that one. So that is like the main thing. The second thing, what changed in me is, you know, I work in change management a lot, but on particularly on this one, I had to do a lot of stakeholder management so that people actually got to buy in their role in this integration and what they wanted to do and so on. So maybe my skills just got better, you know, influencing skills, networking skills, making or helping others do their own things with their words, but with the same idea. Maybe that is one of the things that changed me the most. And being honest, the other thing is, and specifically in this project, is delegating a lot. You know, with big projects, you can't expect to do things alone. And for me, that has been one of the most important success factors of my company and any company that I have worked with is just talent. So having amazing people, training them so then you can delegate things to them and they can grow by themselves and you know, they can just glow with their own skills and background and whatever they are bringing into the table. For me, that specific project was pivotal for me and for my business too.
So, Talent Lab, I understand you have clients that you've served in around 35 countries around the world.
Yeah.
What are the cultural differences? Like you said, that's what they like. That's why they were buying them because they had something that was unique, right? We all have unique things around the world. What have you learned about doing consulting globally and helping companies globally? What are the differences that we have to keep as differences? And what do you think is really joining and getting together or being the same?
You know, I love to travel. And what I love most about traveling is to get to know the different cultures. And while I love being global, I also love, you know, local things, you know. So going to Italy and eating a really good Italian pasta, you know, and I don't know, going to Asia and actually meditating as they do. And, you know, I just love those kind of things. So I really believe in the global part for efficiencies, for synergies, and for the speed of innovation that could give us. But also, I love keeping local, right? So working across various sectors and different countries has taught me that effective leadership is not one size fits all, and that it is all about adaptability, about cultural intelligence, that leaders must be willing to listen, to learn, and to tailor their own approaches to the unique tapestry of each organization, right? And that this global perspective has been invaluable in helping organizations transform in ways that respect their unique context and ambition. And again, that is the other thing. So respecting and valuing the differences.
So tell me about not a project, but someone that has not respected their differences and created issues.
Okay,
Because
so I won't say the name,
of course,
but this is a very big retail company. And this company bought another not so big company, but a medium sized company that had presence where they didn't have presence in 6 different countries. And they decided to like colonize and, you know, being honest, not respect what they were bringing to the table. So different things happened. It was a very tough project. The client didn't listen as much as I wish they would,
yep.
and they didn't act on the different advice that we gave them, and they ended up wasting a lot of money. They ended up losing a lot of very valuable people, high performers, and people that were very respected in the company, in their clients, and so on. So that is why they lost some of the accounts. And for me, the most horrible one is that they kind of lost the essence of that company. And again, that was money just thrown into the garbage bin.
Of course. They bought the company and they killed the essence of the company. All right. This podcast is called Learning, and it's all about how companies learn. And we believe the companies that learn and adapt faster, change management, they are the ones that do best. So let's talk about change management. How do you do change management right? We see a lot of people that complain that a big challenge is doing change management. It's very difficult to do change management. How do you do it? Or what's the right way to do change management?
Well, I'm not going to give you all my secrets now, of course not. No, I mean, there is not just one way of doing change management, right? But what I would say is to treat, well, the first tip that I can give you is to treat each change as its own. So not to try to replicate someone else's recipe or the old recipe that you applied once and that it can help you here. Why? Because each company is unique, because each moment is unique, because they're maybe not the same people, and people bring different things to the table, and the challenges and the resistances may be very, very different. So the first thing that I would say is to treat each change as its own. The second thing that I would say to make a change management right is to involve people. So many times leaders just want to say and be listened, and for people to react as to what they say. And most of the time it just doesn't happen like that, like it is not like, maybe before it was like jump and they would say how high. Right now, if you say jump, normally people will say why would I have to jump, right? So not explaining the why and the reason why this is important, not just for the company or the client or I don't know, irrespective of what kind of change it is. People are going to ask themselves, why is this important for me? Like, why should I change? Because it is not the change is not something that is, for the whole company or an entity. It has to do with you. You have to maybe change your beliefs, or you have to change your habits, or you have to change the way you do things, that your way of working, the way you behave, your competencies, acquire new skills, forget some things. So it has to be with your own change, right? So the what's in it for me thing, for me, it's like very important. Like, and the third one is getting people involved. So not just giving them the solution or telling them I expect this from you, but actually making them part of the change and helping you do the change. For me, it is a whole difference between you telling them and they creating a movement with you, right? So maybe these are like three tips that for me maybe are the most important. And of course, do not forget to communicate. Like in change management, there is no over communication. Training them. Don't underestimate your stakeholders. Things like changing not just the message or a PowerPoint or something in your role, but also changing the actual behaviors and experiences so that people think different, behave different, and then you can have a different result. So just going deeper into the change you want and changing it systematically and within the processes, and not just saying it and expecting people to do it.
Right. To close the last minutes on the podcast, let's talk about now the individual.
Yeah.
How do you do learning and development right? I see a lot of companies struggling to really grow their team, and that's why they have all their challenges scaling. So how do you scale people? How do you do learning and development right?
Okay, so for me, you have to give them formulas, proven formulas. That is like the first thing, but not just that, but for them to put them into practice. So I think that the learning has focused in the past a lot on giving them models and theory, and that's it, but not really for them to practice on real scenarios. So for me, the practice is like the most important bit. The other thing is that they do it on a bite size nowadays. So before, we could go 5 days in a mountain and got together, and we didn't really have
Can't do that
the
anymore.
distractions that we have today. And right now, like, we're all competing for time and attention. So bite size learning for me is like really important. And the other thing is giving them time to reflect and then sharing these stories. Like nowadays, we want everything very, very quick. And sometimes us as humans just need to put it into practice, see what was done, do like a retrospective and then understand what did you learn from that experience. That is uh, what you do out of coaching, but that takes time. So understanding that this kind of things takes time. And the other thing that for me is exciting right now is with the AI, with the all this technology, not just AI, but with the technology that we have right now, we can actually help people practice more on real world scenarios, not just with a human in front of them. And for me, that is very powerful. And the other thing is with this technology, we can help them make habits, new habits, or change their habits. And for me, that is like the key for learning.
So, how do you change a habit in a team member?
So there are a lot of theories, but for me, is understanding why do you do things, right? So what is the cue? What is the thing that makes you do something? So understanding why do you do things, understanding your action, and what is the reward that you get out of that, and because that is why you continue to do it, right? And when the first thing is again understanding it, and the second thing is replacing the action, so that you can get a similar reward or a better reward than the one that you used to have. For me, that is the best thing on doing habits. Of course, that you can do notifications and those kind of things, but it is all about you. Why should I bother changing something, and what is the reward for me? So making people understand the reward and see their improvements for me is the most important things. And also the other thing is not to do it, like setting big objectives, but also understanding that each step is helping you towards your goal. So making it big, but also helping them understand that there are different steps that they can take that are actually driving there. So they just don't give up.
Right. Do you have a case of a company that you've seen they do learning and development really well? Like, tell me a company that you admire the way they do learning and development and what they do internally.
Yeah. So the company I'm thinking about, what they do really well is that they do really good learning experiences in the job. Okay. So
Give me an
on the
example.
real world. So they actually help people jump into the pool, and yes, they have buddies and coaches and so on, but they actually send them into the pool. And the way they create their capabilities and that they are improving their capabilities is amazing, because even if they have people turnover and so on, like the capability is stays there. So for me, what they do amazing is the on the job learning bit, and everybody participating on that, so everybody knows that part of their role is helping others be successful.
Right. And the last question is, you've worked with really big corporations, global corporations, then you work with local mid-market companies. Resources and everything in to learning and development is completely different. What are the big differences that you see between a mid-sized company and a large corporation? And what can they bring to each other to be better in learning and development?
There are some differences, but for me, so there are some differences, but there are also some similarities. And the similarity is that they face kind of similar problems, because we work with people, right? And,
Of
and,
course.
and, and we are complex and sometimes difficult to understand and difficult to move and so on. So they have those kind of similarities. The differences that I see that are not good for the very, very big companies that are my clients is that when they are so big, sometimes they lose traction, and they are sometimes bureaucratic, and things just take too long, and then things get lost. Someone does it in one department or in one country or something, and then maybe in a different department and a different country they have a similar problem, but they don't use it because they just don't communicate to each other. And that normally doesn't happen to medium-sized companies because they're just smaller and people know who is doing what, and the knowledge transfer is just better. So that is why I think that most of the companies right now are working so much on collaboration, on agility, on simplifying things, on communicating better, and using their resources better, because I think that there is a lot of opportunity there.
All right. Paola Carranco, CEO of Talent Lab. Great to see you again. Great pleasure to learn from you. and very, very cool what you're doing. I really like that you and I have a very similar path, that we both started in Mexico being entrepreneurs, then we moved to the US and now doing more global work, and really proving that we're all people. We all deal with people business as you, and really things that you learn in a country or building something could be replicated. So really, really cool.
Thank
All
you.
right.
It has
Any
also
last
been
words?
really cool for me, and it is always a pleasure.
Always. Where can people follow you if someone wants to contact you or follow you? Where can
Yes,
they follow
I'm
you?
very active in LinkedIn. My friends say that whenever they go in, they get a notification from me. So you can find me there, Paola Carranco, Carranco, and Paola, it's Ola. That is where you can find me. I always answer. That is the best way to contact me.
All right. Carranco. Yeah, I have it here. By the way, we have 1,456 people
In
the
common?
same in common. Yes.
Wow.
Mutual connections. Super cool. All right. Paola, always a pleasure. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thank you.